counselor. So, a little bit about my credentials. I am a counselor and a coach. I earned my PhD from Cornerstone University and a master's in divinity from Regent University. I have worked with counseling in the areas of marriage, family, youth, substance abuse, career development. And as I said earlier, I'm a support person, having raised four amazing adults. So I do offer counseling, coaching, public speaking. I've been specifically trained in the Arno profile system, and the Arno system of counseling embraces what they call the inborn temperament, which I will explain in a bit. It's similar to something you may have heard of called the DISC assessment. The DISC model of behavior was originally proposed by Dr. Moulton Marston, a physiological psychologist with a PhD from Harvard. And in his 1928 book called Emotions of Normal People, he established some of the theories that have been later expanded by others. And as I said, you may have heard of this or worked with it. But I like to use the Arno Profile System, or APS, as a counseling technique. It's used by counselors, professional counselors, clergy, and professionals throughout the United States and in foreign countries as well. The system enables a qualified counselor to identify a root issue very fast, very accurately. And there are times when we all get stuck, whether it's relationally or emotionally. So this counseling model developed by Richard and Phyllis Arno, it focuses on um, better understanding yourself within your relationships. It also helps you to establish a spiritual relationship with God. And I refer to the scriptures in Genesis 1:1, which says that in the beginning God created, and Psalm 139:13 and 14. Now, in Psalm 139, it refers to us as having an innermost being. God says that we have an innermost being. And who he created us to be within this Arno profile um, temperament therapy is actually our temperament. So, what that means is in life, we have a personality which comes mainly through learned behavior and experience. However, that can be very different from the temperament that we were born with. So, the premise of temperament therapy is that God created each one of us to be unique and individual with an inborn temperament. And this is something that, as a therapist and a counselor, I help people discover who God created you to be. And by doing this, you can learn to operate out of your God given temperament strengths, not necessarily your personality and the things that you've experienced in life, which are important, but you can learn to be guided by God, walk in the Spirit, and also overcome any inborn temperament weaknesses. And when I say that, it's not meant to be negative or critical because no one is perfect. In fact, we are all fearfully and wonderfully made. So, how it works. As a counselor, we administer an APS questionnaire, and that takes about 10 minutes. And then we purchase the APS for each participant, which involves getting a link. And this can be administered by email or even by the little thing that you scan on your computer. I'm not technically so savvy. You go to the menu bar and you get the little scanner and you can do it that way as well on your phone. Anyway, technology aside, so you say, well, what will this help me learn? How will this help me? Well, the theme of this conference is empowerment. So, how will this empower me? Well, what we can do is identify and measure inherent needs, natural tendencies, strengths, weaknesses, according to your inborn temperament. And this information is presented in the computerized report, which I will then provide you with some in depth information about these areas. So, as a qualified counselor, I can help you identify your temperament, and research has proven that there is a 90% success rate on accurately identifying your temperament. and the reports are confidential. There are four types of reports available. There's adult, teenagers are another specific category, 12 to 17, and children ages 7 to 11. And then there is the testing module for personnel, which is work groups. So we have done some corporate work groups, which is a lot of fun, and gotten some insight into the temperament of some key leaders, which tends to make everyone laugh if they like to share that. A couple of things about the temperament profile. It also looks at human interaction within three areas of a person. One would be the inclusion or the mind. And this is indicative of your social orientation and your intellectual energies. The second area we would take a look at, in addition to your temperament, is your control area or your will, which indicates your decision making abilities or inabilities. And then the third area we look at is affection or emotions, which indicates how you respond within your relationships and your deep relationships. And another very interesting component of this temperament therapy is we also look at what you express, what you tell the world you want. But it also looks at what you don't express, the things that you know in yourself that you might like to express, but maybe for whatever reason you don't. And often we have unmet personal needs, and we find that it's very helpful to identify them and discuss them. So this can be done in person, email link, or what I was looking for was that QR code with a mobile device. Anyone over the age of 7 can benefit from temperament therapy, as well as families. And I have worked as a family counselor. So I do enjoy looking at the relational dynamics within families. Now, there are other tools that I use for each situation within counseling relationships, but today I thought I would share a little bit about the temperament therapy because it was a great starting point. Anyway, so now that you know a little bit about who I am and what I do, why don't we talk about why counseling is important and helpful to us today? So I have to ask you, who needs counseling? Many people say I don't need counseling, but I would have to say that I think everyone can benefit from counseling. It's especially helpful when you're quote unquote stuck and when you need to figure out why certain things are happening or they keep happening in your life. And, we have only so much control in the world. We certainly don't control everything, but we were discussing habits earlier, and Dr. John in particular was talking about taking control. And it is important to understand a little bit more about self so that you know how perhaps you can better learn to take control if that's something that doesn't come naturally to you. Or perhaps you're dealing with a situation where you just don't feel understood and you need to learn a little bit more about how to express your unmet needs and wants. So I think counseling is important for everybody. So now, what about the times we're living in? We're living in a pandemic. So, there are many reports coming out about social distancing, work arrangements, how it's affecting people and society. As an example, with children not being in school every day, there's a tremendous stress on the family unit to now supervise them at home. And for some people, having no time to oneself can cause an already fragile family unit to crack at the seams. We were talking about caregiving earlier. And with the new normal here, some of the things that have been thrown into the mix are things that we haven't dealt with. So, working remotely, another example. It's nice to be out of the public eye, maybe, and work in your pajamas, but it can be very difficult for people of certain temperament types to stay focused and motivated without all of the social contact that they've been used to, like a typical former office environment. So, let me give you an example. um, I've worked with someone who is a CEO with a melancholy, choleric blend of temperament. So this individual is now challenged to run a corporation remotely. So the temperament, melancholy choleric, lends itself in the melancholy side to a person who is motivated, self motivated, and can stay on task. So possibly being at home is not a big deal. They're not wandering, they're not unable to sit down and get the task done. However, the choleric side is a natural born leader. So here we are, we have a leader and a general, but the troops are sitting at home in their pajamas. Or maybe they're walking the dog, or maybe they have other things that they have to take care of. So it can be very, very challenging in these times. Another issue that we have discovered is that the corporate team is comprised of many highly specialized sales personnel. And these folks, many of them have sanguine temperaments, which means they're chatty, they're gregarious, and they don't take no for an answer. They're not easily offended. And this temperament lends to a high degree of success on the job. But there is one problem that we found with the sanguine temperament. They love to be with other people. One of the visual aids for a sanguine is an otter, and an otter is a highly social, playful creature. So the key word here is social, and the social aspect of the workplace, as you know, has taken a deep dive into nowhere. So then what happens to our sanguine sales force? Well, they need to be motivated. So, one of the tools we use with temperament therapy in the workplace is to re strategize, rework performance markers to offset our quote unquote new normal. And for many people, they've had no choice but to have to engage in some of these things. So, while technology has certainly helped us with some of the administrative tasks, Zoom meetings, team meetings, we still need that social contact. We need our personal space. And for some of us, we need a lot of quiet time. So, if you're challenged with the new normal, you may benefit from learning more about yourself, some new coping skills based on your personal temperament. In other words, you may wish to empower yourself with a greater understanding of who you've been created to be. Anybody have any questions at this point?
No, you're doing great, Ken. Doing great. I'm absorbing it actually. You're making a lot of great points. So please, if you have more.
Well, I do. So, another area that goes along with the counseling is life coaching. And I had studied under Dr. Joseph Humidi at Regent University, and in that time was trained as a life forming leadership coach. And there's a difference with the counseling and the life coaching. With the life coaching, I think the key thing that Dr. Umidi would talk about is you personally can attain sustainable transformation. And I was thinking about the book Head Trash, because it's great to learn, but it's very important to implement so that you don't accumulate too much of that head trash. So with coaching, you actually can activate your strengths and you can develop some new insights, but more importantly, you'll develop new behaviors and actions. And with coaching, it's very individually based. You decide what you're able to accomplish. For example, whether you need more quiet time or whether you need more social time. It can be very different based on your needs. But basically, your coach guides you through the process. And if you think of an athlete, say the athlete is capable of increasing their workout time and they want to go to 90 minutes a week. The athlete sets the personal goal based on where they're at. It's the same way with individual coaching. You set the personal goal. However, just as in a sports environment, the coach is there. Why? Because they facilitate, encourage, and more importantly, enforce accountability so that you actually reach your goal, which is where a lot of times we embark on learning something, we embark on a program, and then we don't always follow through and do it. So with coaching, we dedicate a set time so that you can and you will follow through. And this is the beauty and strength of life coaching. It's not often a long process. It just takes you through a process of accountability so that you discover your own insights and then you can create changed and productive behavior. So I do offer a 4-session coaching or counseling package, and the first session is complimentary, and it is $90. And in the first one, we do the APS evaluation of the temperament and decide if you wish to focus on a particular area of struggle, be it work, family, marriage, addiction counseling. I've had experience with that as well, although I kind of do the preliminary work there. I don't go all the way. Although I had a wonderful experience years ago working with some ladies that graduated an abuse program and helping them to career counsel and get back on track and integrate with society. So that was very rewarding and something that I could probably help with. Um, that's about it. I can be reached by mail or by phone. And yes, I am the author of children's books because I absolutely love children and I love family. I think Elizabeth talked about them. My second children's book is Little Blue and the Kingdom in the Clouds. And that book is actually inspired by my experience as a grief counselor. My husband and I served as grief counselors at our church for several years. And Little Blue and the Kingdom in the Clouds is a book which deals with the death of a parent in the life of Little Blue, who is our heroine. And I have also written a meditative book complete with beautiful illustrations of old English gardens, which I love. So that's another opportunity for people who might need a little more inward quiet time to reflect on the beauty of the garden. So that's it. I thank you for your time today, and I hope to connect with you again. And I'm really enjoying Brightside. So if I can answer any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Kim. You that was quite impressive. Many times, I guess, in the effort to get a new you or a better and brighter you, we probably need to consider an outside point of view or helpful insights. And you bring those, and we appreciate your comments today. Are there any questions that any one of you might have about, if you have thought about getting an outside resource to help you understand? I mean, because we live in a time where there are all kinds of circumstances and conditions and events that take place in our lives that you need maybe some additional help navigating them. And there's nothing wrong with that, actually, because it's better that you get an outside resource to help you navigate it. It could be grief. Grief can have an incredible impact on you. And having it's like a third voice, I guess. Helping you understand them. And from my understanding, you have a process that you help people get understanding with, and it's a scale or evaluation, and then you help, I guess, an outside person. You come in and you help them navigate to what, because when until you can isolate the feelings and the emotions that you have, it's going to be very difficult for you to decide some kind of strategy or direction. You have to isolate
Sure.
some
That's true.
aspects.
I want to share one other thing on that because you mentioned grief. And, I had lost a child many years ago, and I had thought, by all intents and purposes, that I had been through that experience, that I had put it aside and it was finished. However, when my pastor and his wife lost their 17-year-old daughter in a car accident, they started a grief share program, did it for several years, and then asked my husband and I to facilitate so they could focus on other ministries. When I got into that program, just the specific questions that were asked, I found that that old grief, which was at least 20 years old, was still there. And I was so appreciative of the training that went into the grief share program because I thought I was done. Oh, yeah, I'm fine. It's so long ago, it doesn't matter. But my husband and I had purchased a picture by a famous artist, Akian, who did so many beautiful paintings. And this painting is of children in, I guess, a heaven. They're completely um, innocent and they're completely free, which you don't see in today's society because, someone would abduct them.
Hmm.
And anyway, I could not unroll this print and take it out of my closet, even though I had been gifted with it and I asked for it for Christmas. And it wasn't until I went through my second, I'm really bearing my soul here, but it wasn't until I went through my second grief share program and had dealt with things that I hadn't dealt with years ago, that
Hmm.
that picture was framed and put on the wall. And I can look at it now without crying. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
just there's things that you think you don't need help
Yeah.
with until you
Mhm.
find out that,
Mhm.
wow, there is help. There are people. It's not scary, and it's definitely not a negative or anything
Mhm.
to be ashamed of.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what I understand is that you have a couple of different processes, and we think that we can live through them. You could cover them up, cover them up, cover them up, and then you feel that, though, okay, I'm okay now. But
Mhm.
it's probably the uncovering that makes you better than the covering up. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So,
great. That's a great way
mm,
to put it.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, any other questions? Anyone have any questions that you'd like to? And by all means, Kim, if you could put your contact information in our chat so people can reach
Okay, will
out to
do.
you, because that is a kind of private matter. But of course, you know, I yeah, I, is it's just coming to balance,
Yeah.
coming to balance. If when you can stand up straight, walk upright straight, in spite of the burden or the weights that you carry, in spite of the challenges or the headwinds that you face, you're better for it. You're better for it. And we've got another speaker coming on later today, Miss Maddie Sanders. You got to hear her story, and it's just remarkable what she has gone through, and to write her. And I've got to give all of our speakers such credit today because they've told and experienced remarkable conditions and incredible experiences that you got to give them credit for being able to just being able to write the story down and repeat it is just incredible, incredible. So thank you all, and we're running up on the 2 o'clock hour, and we've got a few more incredible speakers coming, and we want to hear from all of them. But give Kim credit, give her a round of applause for being there and able to listen and share with us. So, our next capable speaker, he is the guy that can help you put things in order. If you want to record